It's You Had to Ask, the show where I answer your questions, and this week my first question comes from Cham826, who says, I'm a little hesitant to ask this question as I'm not sure if it would be considered in good taste, but I'm determined to make this happen, so here it goes. I asked a previous question, which you answered, about my husband's prostate cancer and his resulting problems. Another problem resulting from his cancer is that he has been unemployed for 9 months, making us a single-income family. We're doing okay, but the issue is this. This summer, my son will go to Marine boot camp. We couldn't be prouder of him, but we can't afford to travel to San Diego to attend his graduation. To help us get there, I've started a GoFundMe campaign. Is this something you would be willing to share on your channel? If not, I understand. I also understand if you feel that you need to delete this comment. In case you can help, here is the link. Love your channel. Well, Cham826, I am only too happy to share the GoFundMe link with anyone who might be watching this video. I wish you the best of luck. I hope that you can get enough raised through your GoFundMe to be able to go to your son's Marine graduation. I think that's awesome. I'm glad that you're supporting him, and I would love for you to be able to do that. So the GoFundMe link is being displayed on the screen right now, and it is also in the description of this video on the YouTube page. So anyone who is willing and able to donate to the GoFundMe to help this family go to their son's Marine graduation, please do so. And even if you can't afford it, maybe consider sharing it on social media. No problem at all sharing fundraising stuff. I think crowdfunding is awesome. I don't understand people who look down on people who, you know, turn to crowdfunding to raise money for things that are important to them. I think that's a wonderful thing that the internet allows us to do, to call on each other for support when we need it or when it's for something that is very, very important to us. So I'm only too happy to share the GoFundMe link, and best of luck. I hope it helps. The Stageling. Where did you get the ideas or inspiration to be a YouTuber? And what is the hardest thing about creating your YouTube channel that you had to overcome? The idea to become a YouTuber was a very spur-of-the-moment thing, and I have kind of a weird history with that, where I decide to do something on basically a whim and then wind up committed to it, and it becomes very important to me for years to come. Before I had this YouTube channel, my main creative outlet was a blog that I wrote that started because I had written a movie review. I wrote a review of the movie Superman Returns, and I wanted a place to share it. So I started a blog, and the first entry on the blog was my Superman Returns review. And then after that, I wrote a blog entry every single day for 5 years. And it was something that I just started on a whim. And I worked on it every single day, including weekends, for 5 years. And this YouTube channel was very similar to that. I made a YouTube video, my first YouTube video, basically on a whim, as a response to a video by Veritas48 asking about 5 questions for atheists. And I thought they were thoughtful questions, and I thought I had thoughtful or at least interesting answers. So I set up the only camera that I had that could record video, and I made my first YouTube video and uploaded it, and 5 years later, here we are. So yeah, it was just something that I never planned. It's something that I did just for the hell of it. I discovered that I enjoyed it, that I was good at it, or that at least I thought there was potential for me to get good at it, and I just did it, What's the hardest thing to overcome? Well, it comes naturally to me now, but when I first started doing YouTube videos, it was extremely difficult for me to speak extemporaneously on camera. I found it almost impossible to work without having scripted my words beforehand. I remember a couple of really frustrating experiences where I wanted to do videos just, responding to current events, and I just printed out a couple of headlines of, news stories that were big at the time, and my plan was to just set up the camera and sit down and just sort of just talk, just offer my opinion about whatever the story was. And I could not do it. I would start blathering on about irrelevant stuff, or I would keep stopping and having to start over, and it was just so frustrating. But gradually I overcame that. Gradually I became comfortable not just sitting in front of the camera and sort of going by a script that I had written, but also being able to speak off the cuff and to generate my thoughts and share them in real time, which is what I'm doing now. And I'm okay at it. But that comfort level was something that I really had to get. That lack of ease and lack of confidence in front of the camera without a script, without a roadmap telling me where I was going. That was a big barrier and something that I'm very happy to say I overcame. Scott Powers. Hey, Steve, you said in response to a question and you had to ask number 180 that you think if you were teleported, you'd be dead, and the person from the teleportation process would be someone else that thinks it is you. But if this other person is exactly the same as you were right before being disassembled, every thought, every memory, every cell, and everything else, right down to the subatomic level, in what way would this other person not be you? Don't tell me you believe we have a soul. It's a really interesting philosophical question, isn't it? I guess the answer is that the other person that emerged on the destination end of the transporter beam would be me from the perspective of everyone other than me who stepped into the transporter. Because if it works the way I think it works, then there would be no continuity between the me that stepped onto the transporter pad and the me that stepped off the transporter pad at the other end. There would be no continuity from my perspective. Now, there would be continuity from his perspective. He would remember stepping on the transporter pad, and he would step off feeling as though he were exactly the same person that had stepped on the transporter pad. But from my perspective, as the person who stepped on the transporter pad and was then obliterated when my molecules were scattered in the transporter beam, I would be dead. I would no longer exist. There would be no continuity from me to the person that stepped off the transporter pad at the destination end. So it would not be me, but only from the perspective of me that got in the transporter in the first place. And I think that continuity is the main thing. It's not that you have to believe that there's a soul or there's some non-physical, indestructible essence that makes us who we are. It's just there has to be continuity, because we think of ourselves as people in this very solid sense, but actually our personhood and even our physical bodies are much more changeable and fluid than we recognize on a moment-to-moment basis. I mean, the cells in our bodies are constantly dying and being replaced by new cells. Yeah, we physically are not the same people we were when we were born. We are made up of new cells compared to the cells we were made up of when we first came into this world, when we were first born, or when we were first conceived. But there's continuity. We remained the same person throughout that transition, throughout that ongoing process of change and growth and renewal. Whereas with stepping into a transporter, you step into the transporter, the beam activates, your atoms are scattered, so you die, but then you 2.0, is reassembled in exactly the same pattern, right down to your thoughts and your memories. And I know other people ask questions saying, well, how is that possible? We'll just say it is. On the other end of the transporter beam, thinking that he is the same person as me that stepped into the transporter. But from my perspective, he's not. From my perspective, he's a copy. He's an exact duplicate of me, and the me that stepped into the transporter is dead. Ahoy Earno, what are your thoughts on the increased use of sex in popular series like Game of Thrones, Rome, The Tudors? Is it used for shock value, or has sex normalized to the point where it can be used to progress a narrative? If graphic depictions of sex as a plot tool become the new normal, is that good for cinema and society? I'm a progressive, even for a European, so I'd like sex to be treated as a normal human activity, but I'm also trying to see the big picture. Pun intended. I have not watched any of the shows you named. I've never seen a single episode of Game of Thrones or Rome or The Tudors, so I can't speak to how sex is used in those shows. I think just in general, there's nothing to stop using sex as a narrative tool or using sex as part of a story, even when it's graphically depicted. There's nothing to prevent that from being part of a serious, artistically told story. It doesn't have to be there just for shock value, just to be salacious or titillating. I mean, obviously, it often is used that way. And I guess to a certain extent, you can't avoid it having that effect, at least on some members of the audience. But you can use it for character development, to propel a story forward. You can use it for purposes other than pornography or quasi-pornography. So I have no problem with that, and I think there's nothing wrong with it. And in fact, yeah, maybe it would be good for more shows to use it in a more mature, serious, story-based or character-based way. Maybe if that was more common, then it would help to erode some of the prudishness and some of the sort of uptight, restrictive attitudes that people have about sex and about sexuality in general. Maybe it would be a good thing. But yeah, there's no reason why it can't be used the same way that other human behaviors are used, the same way that other elements of stories are used to reveal characters, to tell us things about the people involved in the story, to move the story forward in terms of its plot, to explore the story's themes. There's no reason why sex can't be used to do those things in a grown-up and artful way, just the same way that lots of other elements of human behavior and human experience are used. Patrick Dodds. Steve, George Carlin once posited in one of his routines that those in charge, which he referred to as the big club, purposely made education mediocre so that the general public would have no critical thinking skills but have the ability to keep society moving and nothing more. To me, it seems that big government and big business are awfully buddy-buddy. Public education is terrible, and voter turnout is incredibly low. Was Carlin onto something here? You're obviously not a subscriber to popular conspiracy theories, but do you think there are any conspiracies on any level that could exist? Keep in mind the definition of a conspiracy is two or more people. Goethe once wrote that misunderstandings and neglect create more confusion than malice and trickery. And I think maybe the problems in our education system, the various issues that you bring up in your question, Patrick, are more attributable to the former than the latter. Now, it's not to say that there isn't any possibility in my mind that people in the government or people in big business or lobbyists or powerful, influential political figures, either inside or outside of government, could be intentionally doing things to keep public education below a certain level or to maintain a certain level of ignorance in the public. But I try not to attribute to malice that which could more easily be explained by neglect and misunderstanding. And I think this is probably a situation where that is the case. Conspiracies often try to explain things, conspiracy theories often try to explain things that really don't need to be explained in that way. And sometimes it can be tricky to tell what is going on. For instance, with voter suppression laws, it's very tempting for me to believe that Republicans are intentionally passing laws to stop people who would disproportionately be voting for the other party from being easily able to vote. When you see these voter suppression laws, which are never called such, of course, but practically that's what they are, being passed that will disproportionately affect the ability of low-income people or people of color or people living in certain neighborhoods or people who don't have easy access to transportation from voting. There's a very cynical part of me that says they have to be doing this on purpose. They know that when Democrats and progressives turn out to the polls, they lose elections. That's become sort of an electoral reality here in the United States. When liberals and progressives bother to show up and vote, or are able to show up and vote and do so, Republicans and conservatives tend to lose. So, therefore, Republicans and conservatives are pushing to pass these laws on the pretense of preventing voter fraud, when actually what they're doing is trying to lower turnout so that they will have a better chance of winning. And maybe that's true. I don't know. Maybe that's true. But it could also be that they honestly believe that what they are doing is for the good of the country. They honestly believe, even though the facts say otherwise, that voter fraud is a serious problem that needs to be addressed. Therefore, they put forth all these requirements for photo IDs and certain requirements that you need to meet in order to prove who you are in order to vote. I think that's horseshit. I think it's a trumped up threat that is not worthy of that kind of attention. But maybe they honestly believe that it is worth that kind of attention and that it does demand that kind of response. So I don't know. It's very, very tough to tell. But I'm always reluctant to go with the conspiracy theory explanation, unless there is solid evidence pointing in that direction and saying, yes, that is definitely what happened. Mitch searches. So I've been watching some of your older videos, and you look 20 to 30 pounds lighter now than you did 5 years ago. Just a guess on the actual amount. Has this been deliberate on your part? Are you on a particular type of diet? Taking up running? Looking good either way. Thank you, I appreciate that. It was deliberate on my part in the sense that I have been trying to eat healthier. I think the weight loss is due to me eating better and eating less. And that was a conscious choice just for my overall health. But it wasn't specifically about weight loss. I never have really felt like I needed to lose weight. Although, yeah, you're right. In older videos of mine from a few years ago, you can see that I have lost weight since then. I used to be just a little bit thicker, a little bit pudgier. Yeah, I never so much so that I felt like I had to lose weight, or that I was self-conscious about it, or that I was worried about it, or that I had people telling me, oh shit, Steve, you got to lose some weight. And that, it was nothing about that. It was just generally wanting to be healthier, which I think I am. And I'm very pleased with how things are going in that general realm, in that area. So thank you for noticing. It's nice that you said something complimentary about it, because a few other people have mentioned that I've lost weight and they seem worried, like I'm ill or something. And I assure you, I'm not ill. I'm feeling very well. My allergies have been bothering me for the last couple of days, but other than that, I'm in excellent health. I feel great. I'm not sick. I'm not wasting away. I'm doing very well. I'm probably healthier in terms of my diet. I'm probably healthier than I've ever been. So thank you for noticing, and I appreciate it. Matthew Datcher, in light of your recently announced name change for what I consider to be your flagship series, how do you feel about words taking on a derogatory connotation after some years of use? Obviously, stupid isn't the first word to take on verboten status, and maybe in a decade or two, the replacement words will also be off limits. Will we eventually run out of adjectives because they will all be ableist? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet. Our language has been evolving, not just our language that we speak, we English speakers, but all human language has been evolving constantly, continuously, ever since we came up with it. And yeah, we haven't run out of adjectives so far. We haven't run out of ways to express ourselves. Becoming more sensitive to people, becoming more mindful of your language, and becoming more aware of how your language may inadvertently harm people is not something that is going to destroy our ability to communicate. And it's not going to destroy our ability to criticize or to talk about bad ideas, or to talk about people who are doing foolish or asinine things. It is not going to harm our ability to be critical, to be harsh at times. The whole point of dropping stupid from the series, and from trying to not use that word anymore, and trying to avoid ableist language in general, for me personally, the whole idea is to as much as I can, to stop inadvertently offending and alienating and harming people. Now, you can't ever completely stop doing that. No matter what you say, no matter how good your intentions are, and no matter how sensitive you are trying to be, there is always the chance, in fact, given enough time, there's always the inevitability that something you say will be taken by someone else as hurtful, even if you don't mean it to be, because these things are dependent on our interactions from both ends. It's not just what I say and what I intend, it's also what you hear and what you infer and what it means to you. So that sort of thing can't be completely avoided no matter how hard you try. But what you can do is take control and take responsibility for your language, and stop using words that you know to be harmful to people in ways that you don't intend them to be. And that's what I'm trying to do. I have been convinced the case against ableism and the case against stupid as an ableist word has been made to my satisfaction. So I have taken it upon myself to phase that word out of my vocabulary. And as I said in the Off Monday Ramble video where I first introduced this change, and as I have also said on social media at various times when this subject has come up, I'm not going to become the language police. I'm not telling other people what words they need to stop using. It's not about that at all. It's a personal choice that I have made to take responsibility for this part of my own language, and because it's something that is important to me. If I insult someone or offend someone or hurt someone's feelings, I would like to think that I did it on purpose. I don't want to do it in an inadvertent, unintentional way. That's something I just don't want to do. And not only has the case been made to me by people whose work I read and watch and respect, but who I don't necessarily know personally, it has also been made to me by people who I am close with, who tell me that this is a word that they would like to hear me stop using and that they would like to hear people stop using. And it's, like I say, the case for me has been made. If the case has not been made for you or for someone else, that's up to you. That's your decision. And I'm not passing any judgment on anybody. But the idea that if we stop using this word and then in 20 years we'll have to stop using another word, that doesn't really carry much weight with me. I think that's just the way language works. Our language and our attitudes toward our language and the meanings of the words we use will continue to change and evolve as time goes on. But the nature of language is such that it is changeable, it is supple, it is adaptable, and we're not going to lose the ability to express ourselves or to communicate some very important idea or attitude or tone because we have decided that we don't like a particular word or what a particular word means anymore. So there you go. It's a shame that as I'm taking a word out of my vocabulary, I can't add a few more into it, because then maybe that would help me come up with a proper segue to take me from this part of the video to
the lightning round. Rapid fire questions, glib and adequate answers.
Der Wunderbar Bar lightning round question. If I were a donut, I would be a chocolate frosted donut with raspberry filling. What about you? Oh, I would be a chocolate frosted donut with angel cream filling. And I would put myself in the refrigerator for a couple hours so that the angel cream would get nice and firm and the chocolate icing on top would firm up and it would be just so cold and delicious when you bite into it. Oh my God. Oh, that's the kind of donut I would be. Skull Bearer. We've had a few really heavy questions from people who are dying or have had close family members who've died. How does that make you feel, Steve? I think that would be really hard for me to deal with. Yeah, it's heavy. I mean, but it's not nearly as heavy for me as it is for the people who are in that situation who are asking the question. So you have to sort of think about that. And I don't know, it is heavy and it's very serious and very humbling, you know, when people are in those sorts of very serious situations and they reach out to someone through a YouTube video and say, you know, tell me what to do or tell me what you think or give me some advice or give me some comfort. I mean, that's really important. You know, I try to include those questions in the videos as much as I can when people submit them, because I think that's really important. You know, if someone's reaching out to you through a YouTube video, even if, like me, you think you're completely unqualified to handle it and you're the last person who should be asked, I feel like it's at least very important to acknowledge it and to say, I hear you and I'm listening and I'm responding to you. I think it's really important. MalevolentDivinit Lightning Round question. Did I have to ask this? Now we get into these really interesting group dynamics, because you as an individual did not have to ask it. But for this video to exist, seeing as how it is based on me answering questions from people, somebody did have to ask, not necessarily that question, but a question. In fact, multiple somebodies did have to ask questions for this video to exist in this format. But did you personally have to ask it? In other words, does this video's existence depend on you answering or asking that particular question? No, it does not. The Insane Pumpkin Carver. Are you going to get David Silverman's book, Fighting God? Also, what's your opinion of David Silverman? No, I don't plan to read his book. I don't know him personally. I've never met him or spoken with him, so I don't have a personal opinion of him. I've heard from other people who do know him that he's a nice guy and he's a good guy, so I assume that that's true. His personal take on atheism and promoting atheism is not always to my taste. He's a little too militant for me, but everything I've ever heard about him from people who know him leads me to believe that he's probably a pretty good dude. So, Mythos lightning round question. Would you rather A, have to spend the rest of your life talking in a fake Australian accent and having to end every sentence with the N-word, and if you fail to do so, your dick catches on fire, or B, have to spend the rest of your life being roommates with Morrissey and have to use the toilet simultaneously on an interconnected toilet. Well, I would choose B, because then the only people suffering would be me and Morrissey. If I chose A, then not only would people I encounter have to put up with me constantly throwing out racial epithets, lest my dick catch on fire, which could injure people or damage property, which again would be harmful to others. They would also have to endure my horrible Australian accent, which is just awful. It's something that nobody should ever be subjected to. So I would choose B for the good of humanity. Joseph Fopiano, hey Steve, if you had the option to press a button and completely do away with religion, would you press it? No, I would not. Milkman Norm, regarding Man on the Moon, anyone else think Milos Forman's choice of using the real people from Andy's life in the movie 15 to 20 years later after the fact seemed odd? Yeah, it does seem odd. At the time, I didn't think much of it, and actually, if I did think about it when the movie first came out, I thought it was kind of neat, kind of cool. See, like the cast of Taxi, back playing themselves, in the Taxi stuff, and Jerry Lawler playing himself in the Lawler stuff in Memphis. I thought that was all cool, but yeah, when think about it, yeah, it probably would have been better. It probably would have been less disruptive to the reality of the movie if they had just cast actors to play those parts instead of bringing in the real people. You're right. Radical Bacon, should I pet the cat? Well, see, you should pet the cat if the cat wants you to pet the cat, and the cat will let you know if the cat is cool with you petting it. So if the cat is cool with it and the cat wants you to pet it, then absolutely, always pet the cat. Always pet the dog, always pet the cat if the petting is welcome. And with a cat, usually it's relatively easy to tell if the petting is welcome. Hey, that's it for the questions. Before I get out of here, it's time for the shout out of the week. And the shout out this week goes to the YouTube channel of Black Skeptics Group. This is a YouTube channel that just over the last couple weeks has been uploading video of talks given at the recent Secular Social Justice Conference that was held in Texas a few months ago. That was just an awesome event that I wish I could have gone, but distance and cost prohibited me from attending that event. But I would have loved to have been in the audience for some of these panels and some of these talks. You can see video of 2 of the Secular Social Justice Conference panels on the Black Skeptics Group page. You get to see appearances by some of my favorite people, including Sincere Carabo and Alex Jules. Just awesome voices within the atheist community who promote socially conscious atheist and secular activism. And you can check out these events from the Secular Social Justice Conference on the YouTube page of Black Skeptics Group, and I highly recommend that you do. That sounds like it was just an awesome event, and the bits of it that you can see online that are starting to pop up are really terrific. So check out that video, those videos I should say, and check out that channel of Black Skeptics Group. Highly recommended. Also highly recommended in a completely different way is the Lemme Listen podcasts, which are produced by my good friend Jason Harding, who also does Opinionville here on YouTube, that you should all be subscribed to and listen to and watch because it's awesome. But the Lemme Listen podcasts consist of 3 podcasts. There is Lemme Finish, which is hosted by Jason and Finite Atticus. It's just hilarious. There is American Monsters and How to Destroy Them, which is an improv comedy podcast having to do with cryptozoology and mysterious forces and Twin Peaks Coast to Coast AM type stuff. It's really funny. You can listen to its entire complete first season as we wait for the second season to start, which I'm sure is going to be hilarious. And there is also Late Seating, the movie review podcast that Jason co-hosts with me. Together, Jason and I watch films of note, classic movies that are either notoriously bad or acclaimed as classics, as greats, and we give them a fresh review. We decide whether we like them or not. We make fun of them whether we like them or not, and it's just a great show and one of my favorite things that I do. So you can listen to all of the episodes of late seating, and all of the episodes of all of the Lemme Listen podcasts at LemmeListenPodcasts.com, and I highly recommend that you do. It's a great family of podcasts, so check it out. Well, that is it for me, everybody. I am out of here. Before I go, I want to remind you, as I always do, to please leave a comment on this video asking me your question for next time. You can ask me anything about anything. Nothing is too serious. Nothing is too silly. I will answer as many of your questions as I possibly can in the next video. So until then, take care, everybody. Hey folks, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and share it and subscribe to this channel if you're not subbed already. And also please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.